Welcome to Soundbridge Music's featured artist interview. In this series, we get to know Front Range artists who not only shaped the local music scene, but who joined with Soundbridge Music in its mission to use the power of music to improve the lives of individuals and bring communities together. We're so excited to be here today with Craig Cornett. Craig plays an interesting blend of original Colorado homegrown Americana. He's a staple in the Colorado music scene. His songs and stories have entertained audiences all along the Front Range for years, and we're so grateful he took the time to sit down with us and tell us some more stories.
Well, Craig, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you betcha. So, 30 years. You've been on the scene here for 30 years. Is that right?
That's correct.
That's right. So, I guess first question I want to ask you is, how have things changed?
Ooh, a lot.
Uh-huh.
Things have changed a lot. When I first got here, there was not many places to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my band, The Outlets, at that time, and we were playing mainly in Boulder. And, we played Tulagis. Tulagis is gone for a long time now, but there was no place out here to play. And I mean, for...
Here being Longmont, right?
And Longmont.
Uh-huh.
And for my solo stuff, I played, the VFW and the Pump House and where they put me up on the deck, you'd be on the deck at the Pump House and the people involved. I mean, it was different. And we used to be Cheers down there and played in there and a few places around, that I can hardly remember anymore. But there wasn't much going on at all. Really didn't seem to get going around here until about the time the Prairie Scholars showed up.
Oh, okay.
And they started. They had good business acumen and a good show and good songwriting. And it started out, it was just Andy, and then Jess came up and they started the Prairie Scholars, and we kind of rode their coattails around. I met Andy at what was it? The sub, not home, was a sub place that used to be there on I can't remember the name of what name of it's called anymore. It was the New York Deli or something. No, it wasn't that. I can't remember what it was. But I met him in there one day. They were having an open mic in there, and we made fast friends. And we just started. Sue and I started, going to see wherever he'd play. We'd go see. And then when the Scholars got together, we always followed them. And they kind of, they got out and kind of. A lot of breweries were showing up at that time. Of course, Left Hand was here already, but a lot of breweries were starting to open, and the Scholars were playing in different places, and we just kind of followed them. We liked them very much. They're the same age as my kids, so we just we glammed onto them and hung on, and shortly thereafter, maybe I guess I must have been a couple of years that I knew Andy and Jess before we started that I tied up with the Fast and Reckless band.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Fast and Reckless just kind of I went into the Weasel one night to the Tasty Weasel, Weasel, and went there to because I had a couple of songs that I wanted to play that try out in front of people that were new, and I played my songs, and then after that I looked up and there came Tony Perez come walking in with his friend Craig, who I did not know, but I'd known Tony since he was 18. I've known Tony for a long time, and we started talking, and they said, well, we're the Fast and Reckless, and we're looking for a guy like you, that writes his own songs and can do some front work. And I said, well, I've got a gig coming up for the 4th of July, which was an annual gig that was down at a thing called Dave Stock that happened down in Denver, I think it's Arvada.
Dave Stock?
Dave Stock.
I like the sound of that.
That lasted for, I think it was 13 or 14 years of that.
Uh-huh.
And I was one of the players down there every year for, boy, a bunch of times. But in any event, I said, well, I got a gig there on the 4th of July, and it was a little better than a week away. And I said, you guys want to come down and play that? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, come on over tomorrow night. And so in a week, I taught these guys 12 songs that I had written. And at that time, Tony was playing bass and Craig on his scat drum kit. And we showed up down there and played the songs, and it went over great. And we painted our name on the side of the garage, and with all the other people's sign and all the other bands and all that stuff. And that happened. That ended the picture of Craig Cornett and the Fast and Reckless, hand drawn on this wall, ended up being our first EP cover.
Oh wow, okay.
And so yeah,
How many recordings did you do with the Fast and the Reckless?
Well,
is it the Fast and Reckless or the Fast and the Reckless?
it's the Fast and the Reckless.
Okay.
Fast and Reckless. It's the Fast and Reckless.
Okay.
I think. I only played with them for 7 years.
Sure.
So actually we did the EP and we did the album last year.
And that's the let's see, that album is the My New Hat.
My New Hat,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Which is, it's on Spotify, and it's on all of the sites, and and you can even just go to YouTube and listen to it there and decide if you want to download it or whatever. And it was kind of an eclectic album. I wanted to just I called it My New Hat because I thought, well, I really am a songwriter, and this is what I want to do, and I mean, gosh, it didn't take us a month to end up getting Jonathan Wright to come in and play bass, and then we debuted the band at Left Hand. I think it was in April or something like that, and it went over. And as I was saying before, that I kind of rode the tail of the Prairie Scholars because they were playing all these places and doing original shows, and we were just booking right behind them and bringing our original program in. And because of the breweries and this and that, in the early evening hours or whatever, I don't know, the audiences responded to original music, which has not been my experience before.
Before that, it was
it was the Outlets was an all original band, and we had some cover, but the main thing was that we played our own brand of rock and roll and wrote all our own music. But it was tough, I mean, you go into a place and Clapton, play some Clapton.
Sure.
And like that. But when we started out with the Fast and Reckless, it was totally a different scene because people would sit and listen to music that they didn't know.
Huh. Interesting.
And so that was rewarding and felt good. And so we kept up with that, for all these years. And but we only did the one album. We talked about doing another one. I've got a full, I brought my little book. These are the ones that I
show it to the camera.
These are the ones that I kept. I have another stack as big as this one that is just unfinished, or stuff that didn't make the cut or whatever.
Sure.
Or just in piles of lyrics that you wish that you could figure out what to do with them, kind of thing, and like that. So Well,
what? So you've had, has it been basically two bands, or were there more bands that you've been involved with?
Well, I mean, besides just doing duos and short-term stuff, you know, I had one thing I put together called the Roswell Incident.
Oh.
And we just played a couple of gigs in Boulder with that, and that was, we had the Swiss Miss, Michaela Stutz playing guitar for us, and Chris Shaw on piano, and Cap Sahota playing drums, and John Barbeau on bass guitar, and my wife singing backing vocals, and am I missing somebody? I think that was a full band. That was a short. I got the people together to do it just because I wanted to do a short project, and so we ended up with the Roswell Incident and played that in Boulder in a few places, and it went over well, and but it was a short-term thing, so we said that's it. And,
well, I guess I'm curious about your first band and your most recent band. Just what were how were those different from just like a coordination standpoint and working with them and everything? Did you feel like you learned a lot by the time you were with the Fast and Reckless from when you were with the what was the name of the first band? The Outlets?
The Outlets, yeah. Well, the Outlets started out as Rock and Roll Furniture in 1985.
Oh, okay.
And these are, those guys are my brothers. And our drummer, John, died in 92, and that was unfortunate, and it hurt us. What it did was it brought a group of people together we call the Rock Family that pretty much still knows each other and still hangs out here and there. And as the years went by, I grew tired of it. Mm-hmm. After John died, we brought in our friend Eric Wampler came in, and he learned all the songs trial by fire, and because he showed up and we were all so hurt, and we would just play the hell out of these songs, and we had quite a few songs, and something like 40 or more, and we just so. As time went by, it got difficult to work with those guys.
Sure. Just because of the memories or the hurts that you've gone through? Or
just personality things, no love lost, but just, strong personalities and a lot of talent in the band, writing talent and playing talent and that. And, then I took a hiatus from those guys, and then we were doing the Old Boys Club, and that went on for 4 years in my basement of 4 or 5 of us down there, and we played everything you can think of. I mean, we played Steely Dan to the Dead, from the Beatles to the Stones. We just played every kind of song you can think of, just tons and tons and tons of stuff. And it was an impressive band. We were really quite good, but we never really booked out. We did private parties, and then we never booked it. It was all a bunch of professionals that really didn't, at our age and the age of the children and all that, we didn't have the time to go out and play all night, and do that stuff. But we were 4 years down in the basement. Those guys still play. They call it the Music Never Stop because they still get together. Oh. And I haven't been down there in a couple of years to sit in with them, but they do that every Monday night. And
oh, wow.
That's, I don't know. Working with the Fast and Reckless is the best group of people that I've ever worked with. Mm-hmm. The most congenial, the most kind, decent, funny, easy to get along with. No prima donnas, no big egos. They didn't want to play any cover. They only wanted to play what I wrote. And so I wrote quite a few good songs that those guys really made sound like music. And And I can't tell you how much I love them. They're the best.
Yeah.
So that was a fun project for me,
And
decided.
and that's over now. You've gone.
Yeah, I actually after we did our last gig at Grossenbart for New Year's Eve, which was a fun show, and Tony had all kinds of plans that he hadn't talked to me about, but I was kind of like, oh, I'm drying up on this now. I need to do something else, and what else I'm going to do, I don't know. But my daughter is pregnant, and so Sue and I are putting our house on the market after 30 years there, and we're moving to Massachusetts.
Oh,
And that'll happen in the summer, early summer.
Congratulations on
Thanks.
the new addition to the family.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, we figure they'll need some help out there, and my son is out in Massachusetts as well. And I want to spend time with him and just, get the family back together. I never thought they'd leave Colorado, but they did. So
Yeah,
that's what kids do.
Yeah, that's how it goes. Well, so let's talk about your wife a little bit, or just family in general. But your wife, she started performing with you. How long has she been performing with you at this point?
Since 1984.
Oh wow! So since
Yeah,
pretty close to the beginning. Then.
I met her first in '83. I was down on the Boulder Mall playing my guitar, and she came up with her sister, and she sat beside me and Betsy on the other side of her, and she wanted to sing with me. She had seen me before, and excuse me, she asked me if I knew a tune, One More Cup of Coffee, which she knew that it's a Dylan song, and Emmy Lou sings backing vocals on that album, and Sue knew that vocal part, and she wanted to sing that, and we sang it, and the harmony was good, and it was decent, and then another year passed, and I didn't see her, and I ran into her one day, and it was kind of an odd thing because at that time my car broke down, and I had been, I've always been a guy who used a lot of alcohol, and I kind of got tired of, what brought me to Boulder was to start a mushroom operation growing cubensis and psilocybin, and so that was kind of a burnout, and I finally one day I decided that it was time for me to quit being such a party animal and square myself away, and so I started buying groceries and cooking for myself and not going to the bar on Friday night and spending my paycheck and blah 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 like that, and it wasn't even 2 weeks later I was heading over to the King Supers on 30th in Arapahoe, and I went in to cash my check at the checks cash place, and I came walking out, and this girl walked by, and I looked at her butt just like I would normally do, and she stopped and turned around and said, "Don't you play guitar and sing?" And I looked at her, and she was just very beautiful, and I looked at her, and I just went, like, "Is your name Sue?" So I don't know how I remembered. I don't know how that, but I remembered her, and we chatted for a little while. And she says, "Well, I'm going over to go grocery shopping." And I said, "Well, I am too." And so we went over to the grocery shop and pushed our carts through there and got our stuff, and then came out, and as it turned out, her car was also broken down. And so we both had to get on the same bus, and I was living out on 55th and Racket Lane, and she was living over on 46th and Table Mesa, and so we had to ride the same bus, and I had to get off first, and I said to myself, I'm not getting off this bus without this girl's phone number.
Yeah.
And so then I did get her phone number, and I did start chasing her, and then I had that was in October, and in November, the 18th is November 18th is my birthday, and I had a gig up at my birthday gig was up at the Sundance up in Netherlands, and I said, you want to sing some songs with me? So she learned 28 pieces. We had 28 pieces that we showed up with, and we noticed that when the harmony got hot, we did too, and the rest of it's downhill. We met in '84, married in '85. Our son Turner was born in '86, and Sarah was born in '87. So we've always joked that it was the Insta family. Just add water and poof.
That's right.
So.
Do you feel? How do you feel that changed the course of your music career?
Well, when I had two babies at home, I needed to work, full time, and that's what I did do. And I consciously put my music on the back burner because, I felt it was important that I raise children. And so that's what I did. And at the same time, though, the outlets showed up, and it was rock furniture to start with, and then we transmorphed into the outlets. But
so you were always doing music throughout that.
My children have heard me play guitar and sing for more than 2 hours a day for their entire life at home. I mean, I'm incessant about doing it, and just, I made myself learn 35 James Taylor songs and
wow,
and 25 Cat Stevens songs, and just, tons of Paul Simon. And
are these all memorized? Would you be? I mean, is that something you're able to whip out on a moment's notice?
Well, actually, today I can do a whole bunch of them.
Okay.
And I did have a period where, when I was playing with the Fast and Reckless, and we just played original stuff, and that my cover material got laid to the side.
Sure. Yeah.
And then in these last few years, I became abusive with alcohol, and that kept me from playing. I would play with the band, and then when I'd get home, I'd play my guitar. I'd always too high to have any fun with it, so a little over a year ago, I said, I'm not going to drink anymore, and I quit drinking, which has been an excellent, super choice, the best choice I've made in my adult life, besides marrying this woman, Susan, who is the best mate a guy could ever have. And in this last year, I've relearned just a pile of the stuff that I used to play. It was amazing how much I had forgotten.
Sure.
And now, I've probably forgotten more songs than I can play right now. But I can certainly play, 100 different cover songs.
Huh. And that's on top of a couple hundred originals of yours?
Well, I only got about 100 here that are actually current enough for me I can play most everything in the book, I might have to look at the words or something like that, but I can play them all.
But they're ready to go.
They're ready. They're ready to go.
They're complete songs.
And they're all complete songs. Like I say, I've still got another pile at home of just stuff. I got one I saw it the other day, and I thought, oh yeah, I got to get back to that. It's called the oldest hippie in the world, and so stuff like that. So I keep trying to think of themes and come up with stuff.
So now. Are you a self-taught musician?
I am.
Okay.
I am. Just before I was in A school in 1971 in Great Lakes and in the Navy, and we had an apartment up in. I'm just a hick. I'm a hick from New Mexico.
Sure.
But we, the guys that I was in school with there, we had an apartment up in Milwaukee where at 18 you could drink. So we moved in and lived in Milwaukee and commuted 90 miles to our bass, on mostly a daily basis unless we had duty and had to stay. And at that time, we had an apartment on Wells Street in Milwaukee, and there was a guy, Peter, I can't think of his last name offhand right now, but he'd play and sing, and I just thought, man, I love that. I want to do that. And so I went out and I bought myself a guitar. And shortly thereafter, I was in Vietnam, and so I just played every chance I got and taught myself how to play John Denver songs, and put my fingers on there and just kept at it and kept at it. And then by the late 70s, I realized that I could write songs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started writing songs. I guess my first big hit was a song called Saint Germain, which is a song. It's kind of a John Prine sounding song that's about an old guy who retires and has all his stuff up in Saint Germain, Wisconsin, where he goes to live out the rest of his life. And at that time, I was going to the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and I started a thing called the Eighth Note Coffee House, which still is going on, and pretty much the same format that I began there. It outlasted me, and I guess it's my legacy from the University of Wisconsin, the Eighth Note Coffee House, and that's where I became a budding songwriter. And I'd write them and go down there and play them, and then we had everything from jugglers to comics to even Will Durst. I don't know if you know who Will Durst is, but he's out in San Francisco and has been for some time. But he got himself on national television and this and that. He came out of the coffee house there, and they're just different people. A lot of great people came through there. The early sisters, wow, they were the best. It was like Andrew's sisters upgraded to our days. And I love each one of those girls very much. They're wonderful, wonderful women. And so that I made friends there. I mean, that was the first time. I went to 35 schools before I was a freshman. And then I left home when I was still 14. And then ended up in the service in 70. And I never really had any friends. I was the loner. And nor did I have any knowledge that I wanted to play music. No, nothing like that ever came my way. And so when I got to the University of Wisconsin, all of a sudden I knew 350 people by name, and I was a popular guy, and I ran the Eighth Note Coffee House, which was just packed every Friday for, it still is. It still goes on there. And so that was the first time that I had an actual social life. And I still have friends that I see quite a bit, over the years that I'm still friends with from those days.
That's fantastic.
And so it is. The kid who never had a family, I made family out of friends. So.
Well, that's yeah. And so do you? Do you feel like music is a good way? I mean, did you feel like it was mostly through music that you made those friends, or through running the coffee shop?
It was through the music.
Yeah.
It was through the music. The Eighth Note. It was a beer and wine place, and we did have coffee, but beer and wine was always drunk there. And it really wasn't a coffee shop, and it was in the student union. And I asked the program council if they would let me have this space, and they said yes. And so they did, and then they brought in the wine and the beer, and I would, got equipment from the university and set that up and had the stage and everything in there for that, and lighting and the whole shot, And, that was, as I say, my first real big social hoorah.
Sure. Well, I mean, so you feel like being in the music business is kind of a good way to just make friends and
Well,
get to know people.
I
Or-
would say that my guitar has got me weighed, laid, frayed, paid. It's done everything. It's made more friends than you can count. It's just done so many good things for me. It introduced me to my wife, and which is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And so it's been a super duper friend, and I love music very, very much. I just have a real passion for it, and I nothing makes me feel better than to write a new song, one that I know has got some beef to it, you know, and that feeling is it just puts me on cloud nine for a couple of weeks. As soon as I learn how to play it.
Oh, of course, yeah. That's well. So, let's talk about your songwriting here. I mean, where do you find your inspiration your ideas?
Early on, I tried for years to write poetry, and early on, that poetry writing was something to do with finding the music, and then as I played and got more involved with music and learning other people's music, I realized that the muse would just come, and these things would just come out of me, and I was a little dumbfounded at that, at how did that work? Because I wasn't really sure how that worked, because it seemed like more often than not it just happened.
Okay.
Here with a thing I'd be playing something on the guitar, and here it would come. And sometimes it would just pour out just instantly, the whole thing, top to bottom,
Wow.
And
Isn't that a good feeling?
Oh,
Where it all just sort of pours out like that?
oh yeah, it's
yeah.
a wonderful feeling. It's a wonderful feeling, and then over the years, I learning how to play an open tuning and play a Joni Mitchell song, or learning how to play James Taylor music, learning how to play Paul Simon music and Dylan and these guys that I admire so much, taught me composition, and it taught me a lot of chords. I got a lot of chords. I can chord the hell out of a guitar, and it just so. Everybody's written a bunch of 1-4-5 stuff,
Sure.
I've got a pile of it too, but most of my songs, I mean, if you listen to the last record, there isn't a 1-4-5 on there. Everything's fairly complicated, and like that. And then I found that over the years, there's been a whole lot of things that have happened. I wrote a song called, what's a darn thing? I Can't Stop Drinking. What do we call that one? Asking myself why. That's right. And I was talking with my buddy on the phone in Wisconsin, a guy I've known for 45 years, and a good friend, a recording engineer, a musician, and a really, really close friend. And we were talking about this and that and this and that and this and that. And I said, well, Bertie, we'll see you later. And I hung up the phone, and I was down in the studio, and I picked up the guitar, and I just started strumming this C and F thing. And all of a sudden, here it came. Why can't I stop drinking? Why can't I stop smoking? Why can't I stop cheating? And the song it's clever. It has things about it that are interesting, and I feel like it's fairly well written, and so that's when it just kind of happened, and I was sitting down. I wrote another one you can find on YouTube. if you just do Craig Cornett, Three Black Crows, there's one on there. Have you seen that?
Yep.
Yeah,
I listened to your album and the Three Black Crows. Yeah.
And Three Black Crows is I just happened to have maybe was playing Joni Mitchell's some Joni Mitchell stuff, with a D tuning, and
interesting.
And I happened to have that D tuning there, and I just started strumming it. And what I've learned, one of the things that I learned was that when the music is coming, when the stuff is coming, don't criticize it.
Yeah.
Allow it to be whatever it's going to be, and let it happen.
Yeah.
And by doing such, I sat there and I'm playing this thing, and I'm thinking, these lyrics, I was like, what are you doing, but I just let it go, and then when I got done with it and played it, I went, gee, this is kind of cool, and I can't believe the response that I got from people that just thought, Craig, that's your best song, and I was like, really, and it was just one of those where I just.
See, I've been experiencing that a lot lately too. Is just you write something and there are all these things that you think are really questionable about the lyrics and whatnot, but you're just like, it's good enough for right now. I'll come back and maybe rewrite it, and then you come back and you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad to begin with.
It wasn't so bad at all. Yeah, another thing that I've done that does work, and then I heard James Taylor. Mm-hmm. He suggested, because he was on the Late Show the other night. And he was talking with Colbert, and he said, well, you can take somebody else's thing and make your own thing out of it. Yeah. And I thought, and to hear him say that, I thought that's true. I was so happy, because I've told people that I've done this, and I have. One night I was down in the basement just cleaning up the studio and just putzing with this and putzing with that. And I had this song from John Prine in my mind. It's called Storm Windows. And I was singing the song, and then after a while, I just started singing my own lyrics to the song. And I just made up this whole song using his melody and his rhyme scheme and the whole thing. And so I just sat down and I scribbled it all down. And then the next morning, I got up and I shut his tune out of my mind. Mm-hmm. And I looked at the lyrics, and I hummed and hawed on my guitar a little bit, and I came up with a song that is, I'm trying to think of which one it is. It's called, See, I can't remember the names of my own songs.
Well, you got a lot of songs to remember the titles of. Well, did you feel like... how easy was it for you to? Because I've done something similar where I'll kind of. And I think a lot of people do. But how did you banish that other tune from your mind?
I just shut it off. I just didn't allow it, and I let my guitar tell me where else I was going to go with that.
And so, did you choose different chords then? That you consciously choose different chords to work with?
A whole different thing. It's nothing. You'd never know that the tune Storm Windows had anything to do with this song. You'd just never know it.
Did you find that when you were doing that, in order to accommodate the new chords and the new, did it end up changing the rhythm of the words? Did you have to kind of adjust them a little bit?
Well, the rhythm of the words changed to the melody with the new melody that I sang. But just because, here's a line, here's a line, here's a line, and you could sing it. Each line, every line you could sing. You could take one line and sing it 100 different ways.
Sure. Oh,
right?
sure. Absolutely.
So, one day I sat down with a song called "Things Have Changed," a Bob Dylan song, and I've got books of his, and I sat down and I looked at that and I thought, I'm going to try something here. And so, what I did was I'd read the first line of "Things Have Changed." And then whatever that would make me think, I would write a line that was the same meter, time, space, And so I just sat there and I did that all the way down through the song. And when I got done with it, I turned around and I turned it into a song that I like very much. And I'm not thinking of any. Oh, it's called "Enjoying the Pain." And I literally modeled the lyric right after his Things Have Changed song.
Mm-hmm.
And the bridges and everything, you know. And I just put it together like that, but I wrote my own tune to it, my own melody, my own chords. There's nothing like his song except that I looked at his song to get the inspiration to write this other verse.
Sure.
And then the verse that I came up with has nothing to do with the other piece. It's just that what the line he wrote made me think, and I write that.
So now you do that with lyrics.
But that was just one example, another example of what I've done.
Do you ever take like the chord progressions from some of these songs that you like and rearrange those, or is it mostly just kind of working off of the?
I don't think there are any new chord progressions. You know, I try to be clever enough to think of getting some inside chords to move to something else and look for bridges and look for choruses that you know, and try to make it musical. But I mean, kind of tough to find a new riff of chords, you know, because really everything's been done.
Sure.
And what it comes down to is just the timing and the melody that you put on them. You know, and then I come up with things that I don't really know how or why or where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a song some years ago called "The Blues Is Just a Bad Dream," and
that's on your album.
That's on the album. It is on this
My
album.
New Hat, yeah.
And it's the song. It's in a minor key, and this was long enough ago where I didn't really have many minor keyed songs. Now I have a bunch of them, but I figured out this riff that was different, you know, and walking through diminished chords and stuff, and working this minor key, and then these words showed up, and I felt like I had channeled some old black blues guy or something, you know. I mean, I didn't know, the guy in the song isn't me, but I mean, I know about the guy, but it's not me in the song, and so, you know, I end up doing this affectation on my voice on the last verse that, you know, people don't even think it's me, you know. They don't even think it's me.
That song, by the way, really stood out to me from that album. I just thought that was a really great. I mean, can you talk a little bit about how that was recorded? Because it's got kind of feels like there's sort of a couple unusual instruments that are on that track.
Well, we recorded it up at Ray Smith's studio. He's the half of the Strange Birds.
Okay.
And the Strange Birds are very wonderful. Go see the Strange Birds. He changed the name of his studio, and so it used to be Mountain something, but he changed the name of the studio. Now I don't know what it is, but he's got a studio up in Rollinsville. So what we did was we decided which songs we were going to put on the record, and then we practiced the hell out of them, and we went up there and we just played them live.
Mm-hmm.
And that trombone thing on there, that's me going, that's just two-lip trombone. And then Ray did put a Hammond. He's got a Hammond down there. You can barely hear it in there, but he's got a Hammond down there with Leslie's, you know. And so that got put in there. But the rest of it is just the Fast and Reckless, the straight out. You know, when we play it, you're going to hear it pretty much like the record.
So when you go in to do recording, then you try to get as close to the live experience as possible.
That's how that one got done. I have done it. I have recorded where each person came in and played to a click track, and then you piece it all together, and it's really difficult to do that and time consuming. But when we went up there and played that, we did 13 songs in 7 hours.
Oh, wow.
So we were really ready to play it. So that album, the only dubs on the album are the vocals, the harmonica, and only one or two tiny little lead pieces that he wanted to dub.
Huh.
and the rest of it is just, that's us, you know, just playing through it. And all I did was I just whispered the words so that we could know where we were in the song at the whole time, you know, and just whispered words and like that, and then came back the next day and put my vocals in, and then went down to the studio down in town, down in my studio, and put the backing vocals on it, and sent those up to Ray, you know, via the internet, and he mixed them in, and then Air Show did the mastering on that.
Oh, okay.
So he's about the best around as far as it goes. So we were lucky to have him on that.
How do you feel like a song when you write a new song? How do you feel like it changes when you bring it to a band that you're playing? Or is it all...
Sometimes they change a lot, but what I did with the Fast and Reckless, and it's what they wanted from me, is I would come up with a song, I would arrange it and say, here's where the lead solo goes, and here's, you know, and this is how it is, and arrange it, and then I'd just sing it on, just play it with an acoustic guitar and give them a chart and a tape, and they'd listen and learn their parts or write their parts, and then we'd get together and play it until it came together. And that's what I did with those guys for the whole time.
Okay.
And but things develop, and things happen that make the song grow. And so things that we start with aren't necessarily the end piece.
Sure.
You know, what like some songs grew, and where they ended up they're better for it.
Now, was that growing just in the process of rehearsing, or after you played it out a few times, or when did that evolution happen?
Both. In the process of, they would grow as we learned them, and we'd figure out, you know, how they're actually going to work, and that kind of stuff, and where the stops are, and where the stalls are, and where, you know, and all the little nuances. And then by playing them out, you start hearing other things happening. And it's just like, you know, Waylon Nayland, Craig Nayland, our drummer, he's just a fine rhythm man. He's a super duper rhythm guy. And I noticed right away when I got in the studio, you know, I'm in one corner and he's right over there. And I noticed right away that he was playing exactly my rhythm. He was literally playing my rhythm. And what that did, once he learned what my rhythm was it gave me something else to do, where I could do some other things that weren't necessarily what I always did, you know. So things would grow like that, you know, and I'd find other things that could happen because this part that I wanted was being held down by the bass and the drums, you know, or something like that. And all of the songs grew. All of the songs became better as they were played out.
Okay.
And certain enhancements would be made.
By the way, I want to say on that album, your voice sounds fantastic.
Oh,
I mean, it's
thanks.
just and just keep it in mind that you've been, you know, doing this since the early '80s. Well, at least, or late '70s, I guess. I mean,
I've been at it since '71.
'71 even. Yeah. So, I mean, have you done anything to kind of protect your voice, or do you have any type of, or is it just, it's just held on the whole time?
I've learned now not to push it. You know, not to push it too hard. My wife was after me for years and years. She'd say, Craig, when you push too hard, you fall off key. You know, and she was after me for years and years. And then, you know, I learned how to croon from these crooners that I like. You know?
Who are some of the crooners that you like?
Well, I'm saying, you know, I've said it before, James Taylor and Paul Simon and Jackson Brown. And, you know, and I learned how, you know, I didn't learn to sing from Bob Dylan, but he inspired me to write song after song. And, you know, I mean, I bow deeply to his writing skills and the fact that he's a super musician and a good singer no matter what anybody says. You know, but when you practice trying to sound like James or trying to sound like Cat Stevens, and I do mimic, I get that Cat sound going when I sing his songs, and I get the James Taylor sound going when I sing his songs, and I try to, and I do the same thing with Paul and that, and I try to get the intonation and the timbre of those voices, and so learning all that cover material taught me a huge amount of stuff. I know a lot about music, though I never was trained, but I know a lot about it because of what I put myself through to try and get to understand what's going on.
And do you feel like you're, I think I was talking to some folks about how much theory you need to know in order to, because I'm self-taught too, and I mean, do you feel like you're able to communicate with the other musicians pretty well at this point? Do you feel like you've picked up enough of that lingo, or do you have a different...
I do have enough lingo to talk about things, and it's funny. Everybody's learned different ways, and the music is usually the conversation that gets the most attention, but when you have to describe something, I can.
Yeah.
And Rhythm has been the most difficult thing for me. Rhythm is, and timing and rhythm is, that's the hardest part of playing music, and it's the part. It is the thing.
You mean to communicate, or just to
do it?
Compose, or just do?
Just to do it. Mm-hmm. I mean, rhythm is the essence of all music. I mean, beat and rhythm are the essence of the whole thing, because when, if you go see a good 3-piece band, when the guitar player drops off of playing the rhythm with the drummer and the bass, you should still be able to hear the song. It's the song, the whole song doesn't need him. The bass and the drums are enough to keep the whole song going. And that's where a guitar player gets a chance to play.
Yeah.
To play the music and not be forced into the rhythm section where the work is being done.
Sure.
Because that's how I look at it. The rhythm section does the work, and the solos are all frilled. They get to play. And everybody else is working at it, And so, rhythm is the key to every song. It's the everything. I've noticed that you have excellent rhythm.
Oh, thank you.
I think you do. I mean, I've only seen you play once.
Yeah.
But you have good timing, and it's there. And that audiences in general, they can hardly hear little subtle things, but other musicians do.
Yeah.
And so meter and timing, like I've brought up Andy Epper so many times. I love the guy, but this is a wonderful songwriter and a really, really solid rhythm machine.
Yeah, no kidding.
When he's playing his guitar, he's absolutely, totally, completely there.
Definitely.
There's never any movement in what the beat is. It stays dead on all the time.
Yeah.
And that to me is it's a big deal. When you're playing music, you want it to be right there.
I'm with you there. I think that's huge.
It's huge.
Well,
sometimes you want to slow down. Sometimes you want, the retard or whatever you may need. But
even that doesn't mean the rhythm disappears.
No,
you're tapping your foot or whatever to keep it. Yeah. Well, so let's. I was going to get into this anyway, but what are the elements of a good song to you? I mean, when you're looking at one of your songs or you're listening to somebody else's songs, is there stuff that you particularly look for and where you go like, yeah, that's a great song?
Well, they've got this radio station out there now called Colorado Sound. Now I know that I'm getting older. And so when you get older, the songs that I play, are 40 years old, they're 50
Sure.
years old, they're old songs, you know, and I know a ton of old music. And you know, the Beatles, I play Beatles songs. I mean, just last week I was playing Lovely Rita Meter Maid, you know, it's a fun song. These songs are fun, you know, and I play old Beatles, and you know, we did this gig up in Greeley. It's called My Favorite Band, which is a real fun thing, and the bands that show up are just outrageous. Well, we showed up one year doing Cat Stevens. So I had to teach the band the Cat Stevens stuff because they didn't know it.
Sure.
And but we learned it, and we put it together. I showed up there with a 7-piece band, you know, and we played the Cat Stevens. And while I was getting the guys to learn all this, I'm looking at them going, God, this one's 45 years old. This one's 42 years old. Nobody's going to know this stuff. And we got up there and we played it, and I couldn't believe there was just tons of people and singing along and dancing, and they knew all the tunes. I was like, they know all these songs.
Yeah.
You know? So one of the things is that these people that set the pace through the 60s and 70s, they kind of, to me, I measure my stuff up to that.
Okay.
You know, or I just measure music up to that, you know. And so, like I was going to say, the Colorado sound, I listen to it, and to me, it's just like a lame song after a lame song after a lame song. I'm like, oh God, I would never play that song, you know. And then so many songs where they don't really have anything to say, you know. So at this stage in my life, I feel like that if I'm going to write something, I want to say something that someone else is going to say. I get a feeling from that, and that, you know, music, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what the painter meant when he painted the picture. Nobody knows what I mean when I'm singing my song, or you, or
Sure.
nobody really knows, but they know what they feel.
Yeah.
So if the song makes me feel something, then it's a winner.
Well, is that the song itself, like the melody, or I mean, how much of that is the performance? How much does the performance affect your appreciation of a song?
Well, performance is essential. You know, I mean, as I mentioned the painter before, you know, if you don't have any skill with the brush and mixing color, then you're not going to paint a very good picture. So it takes some skill to get the thing to happen. But sometimes the most raw things really have all the import and the emotion in them that they need.
Yeah.
And you know, the simplest sketch may make you emote a lot. So you know, that's where, to me, if it's art, then it means it's given me the opportunity to feel something inside myself, something that I identify with. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the music that I'm listening to, or the painting that I'm looking at, or the poem that I'm reading. It has everything to do with what is happening in me when this stuff is coming in.
Sure.
And if that emotion comes up and I'm feeling stuff, then it's, in my opinion, it's probably some art going on. There's some art coming across there. So, you know, composition, performance, these things are very important to me when I listen to music. It's like, you know, I'm a huge fan of Joni Mitchell. I've heard everything she's done, and every album that she does, the next album is another masterpiece, and then another masterpiece, and then another masterpiece. And I mean, she only has so much that she can do. I mean, there's a lot of heartache and a lot of blah blah blah, but each piece has such character and such, you know, such a integrity, and so well written. It's like, oh my, you know. So I just have to bow to that type of art, you know, from you know, at her level. It just, you know, it's, you know, I always wish I could write like that. I wrote a song this past year that I wanted to write something that sounded like Joni Mitchell, and I ended up doing it without retuning my guitar. And I came up with a piece that I let my wife sing it, because she usually sings the Mitchell stuff when I play it. And it turned out really cool, and it's got like, I'm just using all these suspended second chords, and the chords, because of the way they sound, it's like it gives you that feeling of an open tuning, and I've got all these weird chords that some of them I don't even know what they are.
Sure,
I don't know what to call them, and so I ended up getting one out and wanting it to sound like Joni, and it does.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So
let's talk a little bit about performance. When you're prepping for a show, I mean, when do you feel like you've really nailed it? If you have what are the clues that tell you just put on a show that just really rocked the house?
Well, the audience.
Yeah.
If they like it. I mean, I've stood up in front of people and played my butt off and been very proud of the performance that I did, and they're still out there talking and drinking. I mean, that's been, one musician doesn't know that one.
Yeah, no kidding.
And so it's like you always feel better if the audience is involved with you, and they're and things are going that way.
Are there local venues that you like to perform at better than others, or ones that you feel like,
Yeah, the Grossenbart is always a party. It's always fun to play in there. I've played tons and tons of gigs at the Left Hand. I always have a good time in the Left Hand. The Outlets had their reunion show in there. And that went over super duper. We had the Fast and Reckless open for the Outlets. Of course, I get to be in both bands.
Sweet.
It was sweet.
That's a nice thing about being in multiple bands, right?
Well, then the owner came up to me. One of the owner's wives came up to me a couple weeks later, and she said, "Craig, we like the Outlets." I was like, "Yeah!" I was so glad to hear that, And I was like. So as soon as that record got done, that's another record that I have is my Outlets record. But it's not, I don't know. I'm going to have to work on getting some more copies made and getting it out on the net, because I haven't done anything with that. I do have hard copies of it, but not that many. And it's something else. It's different. It's different.
Well, do you have any crazy stories about performances? Anything? Any wild stories that you want to share?
People don't know what's going on. I mean, I was at the Dave Stock one year, and it was hotter than hell, and the powered speakers were sitting in the sun, and they cut out, and it was right in the middle of my performance, and I realized that the sound had gone dead. And they turned it off because they were trying to get everything to cool off. And I just reached down, unplugged, jumped off the stage. It was like stage about this high. Jumped off the stage and just went right out into the audience.
Sweet.
And just walking around playing my guitar like that. And people thought it was part of my act. And people got a tickle out of that because, people enjoyed it.
What a great way to keep people engaged while the technical issues
the technical issues were going, and I said, well, I'm not going to stand up here and die, and I just jumped down, and I think I was playing something like Little Help from My Friends. I was playing a Beatles song.
Oh, so everybody could sing along then.
Just went right out there and had them singing and doing that, and just, so I don't know, for the most part, I've got a lot of years of just being up there in front of them and just doing my stuff. I've noticed that when I get out my guitar and open up my stuff, that people think I'm a professional because of the level of the sound, the level of the songs, the my overall way that I am, how my voice sounds, the songs that I pick. I think that people, have kind of thought I was a professional, when I'm just an amateur. And
Well, what's the dividing line between an amateur and a professional?
well,
Because you've certainly paid to get played. To get paid.
yeah, but
So
but if you added it up, I've made a penny an hour.
well, yeah. I think that's. But there's a lot of people out there that I would call professional musicians who are kind of in the same boat. So I mean, I don't know. But I mean,
Well, a professional is one who that's what they do to make all the money they make.
Oh, okay.
And an amateur is someone who works a day job and plays on the side.
Okay.
I mean, I have put in as much time on music as anyone.
Yeah.
And at times I've been very, very good at it. And, because practice makes perfect, as they say. But I used to go sit down on the mall and I'd play like 4 hours, no repeats. And I could go down the next day and play 4 hours with none of the songs that I played the day before.
Sure.
And I just, and I just sit down there and play, and I'd make $100, $150, easy. But there's no rhyme or reason to when the money falls down there.
Sure.
You can do the same thing on another day and make $10.
Yeah.
And so, and I haven't been down there in 20 years, but I was sitting down there one day and I'm playing, and there's this good old boy from the South that's sitting there, and he's listening to me. He says, "Son, what are you doing here?" He's like getting at, well, you ought to be on TV kind of thing,
Yeah.
What are you doing here? And I said, practicing.
Boy, which
was a great practice now to go down the mall. Is a great practice.
Oh yeah, no kidding. That's great. And it's also I've found like when you're playing you're busking, it really teaches you how to engage with people, right? I mean, because you have to, otherwise they're just going to walk by and not pay attention to you. So, but well, how do you feel music can improve people's lives or the community at large?
Well, I've watched this community grow musically a lot. And, now you can go see 5 or 6, even more original music right here in Longmont.
Yeah.
And a lot of different places. And, 30 years ago, there was not even any place to eat in Longmont besides O'Shea's.
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
there's no place to eat, you couldn't even, and there was no place, there was nothing, it was a cowpoke town, a small town. And nowadays it's grown up a lot. There's a lot of good places to eat. There's a lot of good places to play. There's a lot of good bands out there. There's a lot of original people around. I mean, there's the likes of Tim Ostick and you can just go on and on and on. I
Sure.
mean, then others someone I really like who you don't see much of her is Valerie Bott. She's just wonderful.
She's wonderful.
And then we've got our homegrown Bonnie and the Clydes, which are one of the top. That's some of the top professional stuff that we've got in town. That's what I think. And there's Antonio Lopez, wonderful, and then Jessica's effort with a Clandestine Amigo is just outstanding.
Oh yeah,
it's outstanding. The players in that band are all super duper players.
No kidding.
And then the song, her songwriting is just is excellent and soulful and really got a lot going on. So I mean, in these last 10 years, it has changed, and there's a lot of good music around. And good players, really decent players. Court McCumber, Danny Schaefer, these guys are really, really good and interesting and good writers it's changed.
Yeah.
It's a lot of places and a lot going on. There's a lot of people out there nowadays that are really doing what I would call good music. Really interesting, well played, well performed, decent songs.
Yeah. Well, so Um, what kind of advice would you give somebody who's trying to enter the local scene right now?
I don't know if I have any advice for anybody who wants to get out and play. I mean, it's a really tough thing to do. It's a really hard thing to do, to go out and hustle yourself and get gigs. And, and if you go into a place where they really play a lot of gigs and they got 100 people bugging them, and you're gonna, if you're not known anywhere, you're gonna have a hard time getting going. So, I mean, if you're really a budding artist and you've got something going on, and your friends and family like you and say you got something going on and you believe in yourself, then you just go every place you can go and ask everybody you can ask, and play your stuff and try to drum up a following. And if you can, you get lucky. And if you can't, well, you're just like everybody else.
There you go. That's right.
It's tough. It's tough.
So I like to ask this of everybody that comes in, but was there ever a point where you felt like you wanted to quit music, and what got you through that?
Oh, yeah, yes, 1,000 times. I mean, you go out and you play your ass off at a gig, and the people won't even look at you, and shit like that. I mean, it's like, I've been as frustrated with it as I've been to the hell with it and to the top of the mountain with it, and it's the thing that always pulls through is that I just love it. I absolutely love it, and an acoustic guitar to me is a beautiful work of art, and I own some pretty nice ones, and they just make me feel good. It makes me feel good, and I love to play songs. Writing songs makes me feel good. I love playing cover music, and the reason why is because the songs that I pick are challenging for one thing, and for the other thing, they have meaning to me, and something about them draws me into them. And certain artists, I've just absorbed, and as I said it before, they've taught me how to compose, and how to arrange, and how to come up with ideas, and how to find the bridge, and when you're looking for that confounded bridge, and I mean, they just, so I like the idea of going out and playing my original stuff. I like doing full original shows because it's it's fun. But we're going to be leaving here come summertime, and so I'm thinking that I'll probably hit up Emmy over at Left Hand and have her book me in. Maybe hit up Still Cellars and see if I can get a listening room there. And I want to show up, and what do I want to play? I want to play a bunch of cover and some of my material, and because I kind of want to show off a little bit.
Well, sure, yeah.
When some of these songs that I know, they're not just people just don't play them,
Sure.
because they're difficult and it takes time, and I had to put in a lot of years to get to where I'm at, where I can play these songs, and that you think I'm playing them, that you would think that I'm actually playing them,
That's right.
And when you know as well as I do that everybody cheats because,
oh God, yeah,
I'm
Sure.
no James Taylor,
That's it.
I mean, it's like, everybody cheats, but I can make you think that I know how to do it just like him,
Yeah,
and so I want to show off and just have a couple of space. Like the Left Hand has been a real home for me. I've played music in there tons and tons, and I know a lot of people, that go to that place. And I just want to probably go out of here with that. I might get the Fast and Reckless together for a little farewell, but I haven't decided on that yet. Craig said he'd come back and do it, and So we'll see. We'll see.
So when you get to your move closer to your daughter, I mean, what do you see going forward with the music? Are you gonna try to keep it at the same level, or?
I'll find out where they're playing music. I'll go there. I'll book myself. I'll play.
All right.
And if I meet enough people and I feel like it, I'll start a band. And it's not that hard to do,
Uh-huh.
you know. And I don't know. There's a lot of good musicians out there, but there's a lot of great musicians that they just can't write a song.
Yep.
And so they really like to have a guy around who knows how to play just tons and tons of songs because it gives them something to do. You know?
Yep.
You know, great guitar players just love it when they've got somebody who can front up and just do a bunch of tunes for them, you know.
Yeah.
If they're not a singer and a songwriter, you know, like that, but they're a guitar player, you know. And there's some good guitar players around.
Oh, no
Man,
kidding. Yeah.
man.
There's
Swell guitar players.
a lot of great guitar players. So what's your experience with Soundbridge Music and their mission? What do you know about that?
She's standing right over there behind the camera. My experience with Soundbridge was that I was told by a lovely, lovely woman that I should get involved. And so the only thing that I've really done is listen to the podcast and get on the net and see what's going on and be asked to come here and participate. And
we should mention Trish played with you with the Fast and the Reckless.
yes,
right?
Trish is a Fast and Reckless member.
That's right.
She's a member of the Fast and Reckless band. I'm Craig Cornett, but the Fast and Reckless is the band.
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
she plays, and she currently plays with the Fast and Reckless. So, you know,
All right. Okay.
So, yeah, and we couldn't have been happier than to have Trish come in the band with her great energy and her wonderful voice and good energy.
Yeah.
And then the Fast and Reckless backed her up at her last show, show
right.
that she did, and it was really good. And she wrote all the songs just for that show, you know.
Trish, do you want to come sit down and we can ask you some questions? All right. Well, is there anything that you want to promote?
Peace, love, and happiness. Sincerity. I want to promote these things. Open your hearts. Be careful about what the politicians are telling you because they're liars. And listen to your heart.
Thank you so much for watching. Check back next month for our next featured artist. And if you're interested in learning more about Soundbridge Music and becoming a part of Music for Change, check us out at soundbridgemusic.org.